clap our hands for Mr. Bjorn Martinoff as he shares on the topic towards gravity recruiting, drawing candidates to find you.
Yeah, welcome back. How's your morning so far? Good, yeah. Is this a decent quality microphone? Is this working, or shall we use the other one? The other one, huh? Use the other one. Okay, got it. We'll use the handheld one. Okay, let's just kill this one, huh? All right, this sounds much better now. Okay, fantastic. So good, so let's see. First of all, I want to acknowledge you for being here. Yeah, because anybody to me who's educating themselves, who's taking their own growth and developing into their own hands, is a very successful person. Yeah, is that true? Yes, give yourselves a hand. Because I think you deserve it. Secondly, you're here on time for this session after the break. And people who are on time also are very successful usually. So give yourselves a hand. And to make sure you really get acknowledged properly, let's raise our right hand. Can you raise your right hand for a moment? Very good. It works, huh? So now let's put it on the shoulder of the person next to you and say, good job. Good job. And then raise your left hand. Raise your left hand and put it on the shoulder of the person next to you and say, good job. Good job, man. Excellent. Now raise both hands, way up high. And then put them on the shoulders behind you and say, good job. Good job, you know, because sometimes we just have to acknowledge ourselves, right? Why? Because nobody else will do it. Yeah? So at least we might do it ourselves. Yeah? Because ultimately, who's responsible for our own growth and development? We are, right? We as individuals, because if we wait for our companies to do it, how long is it going to take? Forever, she says, right? Forever. Or it may be just as long as for everybody else, right? Meaning your company is going to pay for so much training, which is probably the minimum required for you to succeed in what they want you to do. Isn't that true? Yeah? But if we want to go beyond that, if we are seeking to be successful in our careers, what we really need to do is take our own growth and take our own development and put it right into our own hands. Yeah? Because then, that's the moment when we do that. That's when you take charge of your own destiny. Yeah? Because if you only ride along with what the company offers, you'll just be one of many. But if you take advantage of what's out there, you know, maybe you have a vision of where you really want to go. Maybe someday you want to be a VP, right? Or a director, or a CEO. I always say to my clients, you know, if you want to be in charge of your destiny, take on learning today for what you will need 5 years from now. And where do you want to be 5 years from now? And then start learning about that today, because then when it comes, you'll be ready. You know, if you want to be a CEO 5 years from now, what is it that you will need to learn today? Unless, any CEOs here today? Are there any CEOs here today? Oh, there's one over there. Let's give him a warm welcome. He'll be a speaker tomorrow afternoon. Yeah, and he'll share with you all the statistics you can possibly want to know about recruiting. Isn't that correct? Yeah? Tomorrow what time? Right after lunch. So he will be the one to keep you awake after lunch. Yeah, when you normally go into the food coma, right? It's that space where we go right after we eat, right? Imagine a car that you gas up. How many of you have cars or driven in cars? Probably everyone, right? Imagine a car that you gas up and then afterwards it goes to sleep. What do you think about the fuel you just put in? Probably not so good, right? It's the same for human bodies. But we're getting off track. Today I'm supposed to talk about gravity recruiting. Yeah? Gravity recruiting is what's supposed to draw candidates to you, right? Or how many of you are involved in recruiting? Let's see a show of hands. Wow, that's almost everyone. Is anyone here, so congratulations and welcome. Anyone here who's not involved in recruiting normally? Not one? Oh, anybody who wants to be included in recruiting in the future? No? Okay, so everybody's in recruiting. Fantastic. Awesome. So just to give you a little bit of background about myself, this is me. I was born in Germany, lived in Germany and Belgium, United States, and now in the Philippines. I've almost lived in the Philippines now for 10 years. And since 2003, I have a wife here. She sits right over there. Her name is Vicky. Let's give her a warm hand. And she'll also be a speaker tomorrow, first speaker in the morning. Yeah, she'll be talking about social media and recruiting. Yeah, so very exciting stuff. How to use your Facebook and your LinkedIn and all that good stuff, right? So, and we have 4 children. Our oldest is 5.5. And then we have twin boys, they're 3.5, and we have a 1-year-old girl. She's about this tall. Her name is Sarah. So she's also an international executive coach, just as myself. Good. I've not always looked this elegant, you know. I've also looked like this before. And this was me at age 1, you know, same as Sarah's age. First time I had chocolate. Do all of you have a picture like this? Yes? Pretty much everybody does, no? It's like, the other day, Sarah, our youngest one, had chocolate for the first time. You should have seen the smile on her face. She's normally a very healthy eater, and it's the first time she had chocolate. She couldn't stop smiling. Something was going on. Good, so that's me at age 1. So today, these are our clients. We have clients globally, but mostly in Asia. We've worked with some of the bigger corporations in the region. And this is our pharma clients, and then we have BPO clients. Are the BPO people here? None? 1. Okay. Good. And these are some of the charities we support. We support Silid Aralan. They help underprivileged children with their homework, and we help them catch up from, often because they're so poor and can't buy even pencils, we help them catch up from last in class to first, second, third in class, which is amazing. Okay, we have some partnerships, and then a reality check. So let me ask you this question. This is about gravity recruiting, meaning attracting people. But before we go there, what kind of companies would you not want to work for? What are, I mean, you don't want to mention any names, okay? But what are the characteristics of the companies that you wouldn't want to work for? Because I think there's some learning available in that. What would that company do, be, or have that you wouldn't want to work for them? What do you think? Look like you want to say something.
The company that requires long hours.
Long hours of work, yeah, long hours of work. It's almost become standard these days, right? 16-hour days. Yeah. Okay, what other company would you want to work for? Thank you for that. Huh? By the way, let's give her a hand. It takes courage to be the first one, doesn't it? Yeah, congratulations. What other companies wouldn't you want to work for?
want to work for malls.
For malls, fine.
No, there are no holidays.
Very long holidays. Yeah, the holiday hours, right? Instead of giving you the day off, they make you work extra hours, right? Yeah. Good. What other companies wouldn't you want to work for? You look like you got something in mind.
Maybe companies that have bad reputation.
Bad reputation, that's right, yeah. So what's a bad reputation consist of? What kind of bad reputation were you thinking of?
Maybe when employees are not engaged and they say bad things about where they work.
They're not engaged, and what was the second one?
They say bad things about where they work.
Oh, they say bad things about the place they work, right? So, does this happen? Absolutely, right? What other companies wouldn't you want to work for? You look like you have something on your mind, Anna.
I wouldn't want to work for a company where the bosses are not supportive.
Oh, very good. The bosses are not supportive, right? Good. What other companies wouldn't you want to work for? You're looking at him like he's got the answers. But he's like, Is there anything you want to say?
High attrition rate.
Yeah, companies that have a high attrition rate, that's usually an indication of something going on, right? Do you know, are there high attrition rates generally in the Philippines? BPOs. Yeah, he says BPOs. Yeah. Anything else? Yeah, so the good news is the Philippines does not have a reputation of high attrition rates. It has actually a very good reputation in terms of attrition. Yeah, except for maybe BPO industry, right? And that is probably because the hours, right? Or the night work. Yeah. There's actually, believe it or not, there's been some companies that have moved to China from the Philippines and are now coming back. Why? Because the attrition rate in China is so high. And they lose 40% of their employees every 3 to 4 months. That's huge, right? That's over 100% a year. Yeah? While they say in the Philippines, in that particular, this was an electronics industry company, they said it was only 6% for their industry, the turnover. So because of that fact alone, they thought it was better to be back here. Even though the wages may have been a little bit cheaper in China. But that's also changing, isn't it? Wages in China are going up tremendously. Good, so those are some examples of companies that maybe you wouldn't want to work for, right? So there's been some research that's been done. And the research over the 10 years has come up with the conclusion that nothing's really changed. Yeah? Companies like to promote the idea that employees are the biggest source of competitive advantage. However, the astonishing reality is that most of them are as unprepared for the challenge of finding, motivating, and retaining talent as they were a decade ago. Yeah, it's still the same. Yeah? No changes. No? So that makes business leaders quite concerned, because the research in 2006 indicated that the respondents regarded finding talented people to be the single most important thing to do for the rest of the decade. Yeah, for the next 10 years, globally, these C-level executives thought that there was nothing more important than that in 10 years. The second survey conducted in 2007 revealed that nearly half of the respondents expect intensifying competition for talent. They expect it to get worse. Yeah? And the increasingly global nature of that competition, because more and more the world is flat, they expect that to have a major effect on their own companies over the next 5 years. So meaning, because companies are getting more and more sophisticated in how they hire people, right? It's becoming a little bit easier to distinguish who you want and who you don't want, right? There are certain processes that you probably all know of that will help you distinguish which one is more likely to succeed and which one isn't. And it's no longer just about skills, but nowadays it's also about personality and attitude. Isn't that true? Yeah, right? For example, in the past, it was perfectly okay to hire maybe an introvert into a sales position that required this person to go outside and meet with clients. But nowadays, where you have to get more effectiveness out of less people, this may not be all that efficient anymore. Isn't that true? Yeah, I see nodding heads here, right? Because when you have, as an introvert, I'm a recovered introvert. I used to be an introvert 10 years ago. I have changed myself. I've transformed myself, and I've written a book about it, which I'll talk about later. It's called Develop Exponential Power. But when as an extrovert, I don't have trouble connecting with people. Right? Sometimes I'm a little overpowering these days, even so if I'm getting too close to you, just let me know, okay? But so there's definitely a shift in terms of how we determine whether we want someone to work for us or not. Yeah? So, no other global trend than this hunt for talent was considered nearly as significant. Yeah? Even earning money was not as significant as finding talent. So lessons of failure. Too many organizations still dismiss talent management as a short-term tactical problem. Oh, it's just something for the next month or 2 or 3, is their thinking. Rather than an integral part of a long-term business strategy, requiring the attention, or that should be requiring the attention of top-level management and substantial resources. It costs money to find talent, right? But there is much more to it than that. For example, the attitude often is, like here of a European CEO, everyone spends time on today's business. We attribute very little value to doing anything else. Talent management puts you under strain because it stops you from doing what you're rewarded for. Basically, they're not being rewarded for talent management, right? Yeah, because what they're rewarded for is what? They're rewarded for results. Yeah? And finding talent doesn't give you any immediate results. However, down the road, when you look at it more long-term, rather than just, putting a warm body in that chair, right? Down the road, having the right warm body in that chair will make a difference, doesn't it? Yeah, it does. You look puzzled. Do you want to say something? Oh, do you have a question? This is my good friend, RV. He's also a recruiter. Good, so in the researches, senior executives have frequently acknowledged their failure, and as well as that of their line managers, that to pay enough attention to talent issues. Yeah? The research at global corporations has highlighted the obstacles that these executives face, including short-term mindsets. Yeah? What got us into the global crisis was a short-term mindset. Now, I don't know how well known this is, but there was a short-term mindset at the banks in the United States that it's okay to sell these houses and give loans to these people buying these houses, even though 3 months from now, or 6 months from now, or a year from now, we know that they will not be able to pay their mortgages. Yeah? It was more important to close the contract today because that's what gave us the commissions, right? But what happened? Everything tumbled and failed. And the whole world crumbled because of short-term thinking, not thinking far enough ahead. What's the consequence of my actions? Yeah? Down the road, what will this mean? So including minimal collaboration and talent sharing among business units, ineffective line management, and confusion about the role of HR professionals. Most of you are in HR, right? Yes? Yes. In some organizations, HR is separate from recruiting, because sometimes recruiting is so large, because it's especially in big PPOs. So this is the current reality. This is kind of like how it is. Recruitment is the primary objective of HR. It's the first step of building a reliable and effective workforce. And competitive advantage starts here. It's a process involving assessing, attracting, screening, selecting, and enlisting ethical and legal considerations, as well as effective strategies. So the general stages of recruiting, I'm sure you're all familiar with, include job analysis, development of selection criteria, and sourcing of candidates, determining suitability with available positions, and screening of candidates, and onboarding. So common methods of recruitment are in-house and HR outsourcing, or an organization may choose other specific steps. Attrition and turnover rates are a constant problem. So who here has like an excessive turnover rate in their organization, would you say? Any show of hands? Be proud. Nobody? Why are you here? Okay? If you don't have any issues recruiting, then you probably wouldn't waste your time being here, no? There's some interest here for you, something to get. Yeah? There are some industries in the US, the turnover rate is over 100% a year. Can you imagine 100% turnover? And that's a failure of something. Yeah? So that's the example I just listed in the US, that's the car industry, and specifically in sales. Yeah? Many salespeople don't last more than 3 months. That's it. And very few last more than a year. Okay? So turnover rates. So that can of course hurt your recruitment efforts, right, when people leave early. So this is something that every company should always be aware of. Now, who here is tracking your turnover rates? Is anybody tracking that? Is anybody? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 6 out of maybe 200 people, right? So maybe you don't have a problem, or you just don't know there is a problem, right? In terms of your turnover rate. Turnover costs the US economy $5 billion each year. How much is 5 billion in pesos? How much is that in pesos? $5 billion. So 1 billion is 1,000 million dollars, right? And $1 million is how many pesos? 50 million pesos, right? 50 million pesos is $1 million. So that's $1 million. So now times 5,000. 50 times 5,000 is 250 million? Could that be? Yeah, 250 million? Or is it billion? Either way, it's significant, right? So, why do we need gravity recruitment? So, because it creates what? It creates something that may not be present today. What is that? It creates, it's in the slide, yeah. It creates sort of a magnetism. It creates sort of an attraction. An attraction for what? For talent. Yeah? Because if you, like earlier we talked about companies that we may not want to work for. Yeah, so gravity recruitment should at its core develop a culture in a company that people would strive to work for. People would want to work for. People would be inspired to work for. People would maybe give their right hand to work for. Yeah? Something that they would line up for, even though there may be a slim chance they might get accepted. Yeah? So the culture created then is characterized by engaged employees. So first we're going to go a little bit about the details, and I'm going to share with you the principles behind that. Yeah? So we're just going to go through some slides, and I'm going to share with you the details. But the details in itself, my sense is, even though they're interesting, they're not as important as the principles, because once you know the principles behind the details, you can create something very specific to your company that may not even be on any of these slides, because you already know the principle behind it. But let's just go through what they found as important. Yeah? So they found that engaged employees will create higher loyalty, more creativity, and more productivity. Yeah? It also creates more value in the organization. And eventually better business outcomes. So here's top 10 gravity recruiting practices. Creating a magnetic workplace culture. So first thing is provide career development opportunities. If you ever worked in an organization where they didn't promote from within, how did you feel about that? When somebody got promoted, but it wasn't any of your teammates, it wasn't any of your colleagues, rather they hired someone on the outside. How did you feel about that?
Motivated.
That's correct, yeah, what you said? Yeah, you'd feel bad, right? And when you're demotivated and you feel bad, what does that do for your productivity?
It will affect in a way, it will slow productivity.
Yeah, it will affect it. It will slow your activity, right? Because you're demotivated, you're like, right? The air is out, right? Yeah? How do you feel when you're demotivated?
You don't feel like you're enjoying your work.
Yeah, you're not enjoying your work, right? And why is that? Because likely, even if you work hard, there's no future, right? They did some work with street gangs in Los Angeles. There's a part of Los Angeles that's famous for its street gangs. Mostly South Americans, Mexican, young kids, ages 8 to 20. And they go around robbing businesses, they go around shooting people, they go around doing drugs. And what they found out was that these children, these young adults, the reason why they did that is why? You know why? Because they didn't have a future. Yeah? To them, the reality was, before I'm 22, I'm going to die anyways. Right? That's the future they were living into. That's kind of what they saw. You know, can you imagine these young kids thinking that's as old as they're going to be, right? So they didn't have a future. So there's some people that went in and worked with these kids and helped them create a vision for themselves. More than a vision, as a future that they could actually see themselves living, and that they could see themselves being inspired by. When you don't have a future because you hire people from the outside regularly, when on occasion it's probably okay, but it still has an impact. So what happened when they created a future with these children is they started leaving their gangs. Yeah? And they started going back to school. And they started to no longer take drugs. Yeah? And they started to prepare for that future. Yeah, because a whole new future opened up for them. Something that inspired them. Something that spoke to their hearts. But if I work in an organization and I may work my butt off and I work overtime, and then somebody else gets promoted that's not even here, it has an impact. Yeah, that has an impact. So even if you can find some talent that may be 10% more efficient, 15% more efficient, there's a price to be paid. Yeah, that team you're going to work with, maybe that department, the effectiveness of that department will definitely go down as a first reaction. Of course, then also the leadership of that person makes a difference. So, career development, educational opportunities. It's very important that people learn something new. It makes it more interesting, but it also shows that there's a future for me there. Yeah, if the company invests in me, it shows the company trusts me, it shows the company believes in me, it shows the company wants me to grow and be there for a while, right? So it gives me also a certain level of safety and feeling secure, right? That I'm really wanted there. I think in the Philippines, people are very family-oriented, isn't that true? Yeah? And they want to have the same kind of feeling, not just at home, but also when they go to work, right? They want to belong, right? People everywhere in the world want to belong, but I think it's especially strong here in the Philippines. Huh? It's very strong here, but it's like that really anywhere in the world, that people want to belong. So, giving opportunities to grow makes a big difference for them. Huh? Also opportunities to participate in the organization. What happens when people participate in the organization and the decisions that are made and the projects that are taken on, just the inputs that are being heard, it increases engagement and increases ownership. Yeah? It's like we can treat people as if they're just part of the equipment, like a chair or a computer. Yeah, but how motivated is a chair or a computer? Or how engaged are they? Are they engaged? No, only the chair is just sitting there, right? It's not good nor bad, it just sits there. The computer only does something when you press a button, right? Or you put several buttons in, and then you press another button, and then you execute something. Yeah? There are organizations in the Philippines and in other parts of the world where management and leadership treats their employees as if they were machines. Is that true? Is that true? Yes, right? We treat people as if they were machines. pressing a button, expecting them to perfectly execute what we expect them to do. But what happens when they're done? What happens when their computer is done with that program? What happens? You execute something on a computer and then? What happens on a computer? Nothing! Right? Except the little cursor blinks, like right? Just like your heartbeat. It keeps on beating, and the heartbeat of your employee keeps on beating, but the employee probably does nothing. If the employee is not engaged like a machine, then the employee will just wait until you give them the next instruction. Have you observed that?